wandered innocently into the waiting spider web. How many more are doomed to follow? The smell of the ruins terrifies me and lures me on. Yeah! Do you believe me now? Do you believe me? No! 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 No, not the children!
So, it's late. It's perhaps 9 or 10 p.m. and I should have been staying around Daryl's. His mum heard he was staying at Jacob's, and Jacob was meant to be staying at Mike's. And Mike, well, he was supposedly staying at Daryl's as well. This, in case you haven't done it before, is the basic formula of an all-nighter. It's when teenagers like myself basically head out at night with their parents believing some bullshit of a sleepover, or whatever you want to call it. I didn't know Mike or Jacob too well. Come to think of it, I barely knew Daryl, but we all somehow ended up hanging out together. Daryl and I do go back, but it's more down to our mums being friends. So he pretty much just puts up with me. That, and I'm his way to get weed. As for Mike and Jacob, well, like Daryl, they're part of the cool kids from school. But I guess now that we're not in school, our social cliques don't mean so much. So we found a spot, set up a fire, opened a few beers, and smoked a couple of spliffs. Shortly after, followed the telling of some creepypastas, scary YouTube videos, even a shitty Slenderman story. You can tell where we're going with this. Jacob then mentions what he refers to as the witch's house. The group grow excited reflecting on the mention of it, so I had to ask, the witch's house? Mike turns to me. He's truly shocked, if not even a little melodramatic, that I, being a recluse guy, am completely unaware of this whole witch's house. So he begins to explain. You know, the old empty house off Western? The one hidden in a dead ivy? Well, they say an old crazy witch lives there. They also say that if you knock at her door, she will burst open and pull you in her house. And then what? I asked. Well, it's said that no one knows, because no one's ever come out alive. I looked at everyone's serious faces, lit by the amber flames. Then they burst into laughter. I decided to ask if they ever knocked at her door. Fuck no, I don't think anyone's got the balls to reach her doorstep, Jacob begins to explain. We all looked at one another jokingly, then we shortly broke into an awkward silence. I don't know why, but I stood forward and I said, I'll do it. They looked at one another and continued laughing. They proceeded mocking me, and I felt myself falter. Okay. Alright then, well, let's do it. I felt a knot in my throat as we made our way from the meadows to the suburbs. It was darker there, and the streetlights were few. We passed house after house. They all looked alike, tall and wide stale shadows. Here we are. We stopped at an old, worn-out shack of a house. Dreadlocks in layers of decay and overgrowth. We all took a moment, staring at the house. Then I turned to the others. So now what? Well, you're gonna play Knockdown Ginger. For those who don't know what Knockdown Ginger is what some might call Ding Dong Ditch. I looked at the tall empty house, staring back at me, and took a deep breath. I took a moment before I started towards the door. Each step was shorter than the last. I came closer to the front doorstep, feeling my heart race in my ribcage. I looked behind to the guys for encouragement. They just looked on at me, gesturing at me to walk on. Now, I'm standing at the front door. I feel a sharp cold breeze cut across my face, so I lift my arm towards the doorknob. Then, I knocked. I stood frozen, forgetting what I was doing. A heavy weight falls over me, and I felt driven to go inside. The door slowly creaks open. I looked behind again. The gang were motionless. All I needed to do was take one step further, so I held my breath and entered the darkness of the empty house. I felt a short burst of relief, and just as I walked inside, again I felt that familiar cold breeze, and with it, the door slammed shut. I shook it off as I felt myself overcome with shots of adrenaline and curiosity. So this is a witch's house, I thought to myself. I walked along, and I started mocking the house by knocking along its walls. As I made my way towards the stairs, it was dark inside, though I could make out all the wallpaper which was peeling from the walls, and the thick grey cobwebs which hung like tinsel. Then I heard footsteps above me. They definitely came from upstairs. I then turned behind to look outside, and I couldn't see any of the gang there. Daryl? Jacob? Matt? Those bastards. They planned it. They wanted me in here so they could pull some stupid kind of prank. I began up the stairs. I decided to play ignorant in hope of catching them out. Eventually, I reached the landing, and I heard a door creak. It was then, as I looked down the hallway, the door to a room at the end of the landing was slowly opening itself. I creeped through the shadows towards the room. My heart begins beating faster. I can feel it hitting my chest as I approach the doorway. I begin to peer over, and I'm starting to see inside. Nothing. No one in there. I walk inside, holding onto my sides. Suddenly, the door slams shut. I panic as I turn to face behind, as I lose my footing, falling flat on my face. I open my eyes and my vision blurs. I can hear muffled voices through the door. And then silence. Slowly, I begin to see clearly. The room appears darker than what it was before, denser. And as I lay onto my front, I realise a light coming from the window behind me. The light from outside beginning to fade. I could hear as though somebody was slowly pulling the curtains over the window. My body begins to freeze all over. I know I'm not alone. I can hear a heavy breathing resonating throughout the room. Then a heavy knocking begins. I cannot move. I try to shout or scream, and only a whimper falls from my dry lips. The breathing, it's getting louder, closer, as the room falls darker and darker. The banging starts again, even louder as it repeats. The room slowly surrenders to darkness. The breathing and the knocking is growing louder and closer. My body starts to jolt. Then I feel myself regain what strength I can. I notice the door creeping open very so slightly. I bolt towards it and I lift myself up clumsily, and that's when I hear a raspy voice behind me, stopping me in my tracks. Knock, knock, knock. My eyes peel back as the hair across my body shoots up. The door in front of me now fully opens. Dented, splintered, painted red. Jacob, Mike, they lay there, their bodies bloodied and twisted on the floor. I brace myself towards the stairs and I freeze. I see Daryl's body bent, twisted and distorted at the front door, at the end of the stairs. He's not alone. Two tall, thin and dark figures appear beside him. They appear to turn and look at me. And again, I feel that familiar heavy weight. Then behind me, I hear in a cold, sharp voice,